Welcome to OTM Cars and Motorcycles. I am your host Kong Wen. This is my very first action camera, the GoPro Hero4 Black, and this is a DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. This is not a direct comparison between DJI versus GoPro, nor am I sponsored by either of them. I just want to show how far camera technologies have evolved in the past decade. Starting with the hardware, I have to give credit to GoPro because they were the first in the business, and the same mounting pattern is universally accepted across all the brands. It's extremely helpful when it comes to sharing accessories, but these screws suck. The newer screws are slimmer, longer, and have wings for easy access versus requiring a tool. The other important feature is the built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth with their respective apps. That's right, the GoPro had the app in the days of iPhone 5, and this has since been the industry standard. Nowadays, DJI and Insta360 all have their own dedicated apps with preview functions, change settings, and remote control. The app is more of a necessity for the Hero4 since it lacks a preview display. What is different about the old GoPro is it's not at all waterproof and it needs a waterproof case. To get decent sound, you need an external microphone with a different case that sacrifices the waterproofing. That is, if you can actually get the USB to work. Newer cameras are all waterproof up to a certain depth and have wireless mic capabilities and even connecting to helmet comm systems. Battery technologies have advanced and newer cameras have nearly double the capacity as this 1160 mAh GoPro battery. More battery means cameras can support more functions like higher frame rates at a higher resolution, plus a longer battery life. Speaking of resolution and frame rates, this GoPro is the first 4K 30 frame action camera and is still relevant today. Since processing power has increased drastically, newer cameras can record up to 120 frames at 4K or 240 frames at 1080p, whereas the old GoPro can only support 30 frames at 4K and 120 frames at 1080p. There's more to the story when we look at the field of view. Don't be fooled by ultra-wide angle or super view in the marketing material, because the Hero4 Black at 4K 30 only supports wide-angle shots. Options like narrow and linear become available in 1080p. The newer cameras support nearly all angles but may be limited at 4K 120. Perhaps the biggest difference for the overall feel is the lack of image stabilization. GoPro didn't get EIS until Hero 5, and even then it wasn't great. The technology has improved vastly, and the new Action 5 Pro has multiple levels of adjustment. You can even turn it off completely if you want to mimic the old school feel. There's a noticeable difference in color as well. Using all default automatic settings, the old GoPro can seem a little dull and overexposed, meaning you lose a lot of details in the sky. For the pros and the content creators, both of these have pro tuning capabilities to dial in your exposure settings, like manual shutter speed and ISO. This is also where the gap widens. To achieve the cinematic results without overexposure, you really need ND filters, and that wasn't something available back in the day. The GoPro 4 does have a flat color profile, but newer cameras can shoot in log, DJI's 10-bit D-Log for example. File structure is kind of a big deal for organizing and importing. The old GoPro splits a single recording into multiple files at a maximum of around 4 GB. The file names go from this to this for a single video. Finally, I want to answer the burning question. Who are these cameras for in 2025? For the normal consumer using it as a dashcam or the casual sports recording, you really don't need the newest camera. If you want to use them on default settings as a point-and-shoot camera, both will work fine depending on how you want the color and details to show up. I'm not suggesting something 10 years old, but just find a great deal on an older model. Motorcycle riders would benefit from one of the newer cameras that has built-in stabilization and lets you use ND filters and wireless mics, but there's no need to break the bank. I hope you find this video entertaining and somewhat useful. It's not a fair comparison, but a good product evolution. It still blows my mind to think I've owned this GoPro for 10 years. It has taught me a lot and survived 2 YouTube channels. So please, support this channel by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here. I do a lot of classic retro cars and motorcycle builds. Occasionally I get to share my experience with video making. Stay tuned and ride safe.